little bit of the environmental problems in South Africa, particularly in Durban.
Okay. Well, this country's economy starts with formal capitalist agriculture. So there's already a big move in the 1830s, 40s, 50s to start concentrating land holding by white settlers. They steal the land and then they begin to have large farms, and the banking system helps them. But it's really with 1867, the finding of diamonds, that the worst problem, the resource curse, becomes apparent. And that's mainly because Cecil Rhodes began to accumulate companies, and he consolidated the diamond companies. And that gave white mining capital the power to remake this economy. And in the 1890s in Johannesburg, they found gold. They developed in 1886, they founded and they developed this biggest city in the world without its own water supply, because half the world's gold was there. And then after that, in the 20th century, they basically combined the deep mining with deep energy. So they began to consolidate energy. A state-owned company was formed in 1928 called Eskom, and they relied on coal. And that's when we began to be carbon addicted. And I think that's our single biggest problem. If you put these trends together that start off capitalism with big agriculture, big diamond mining, big gold mining, coal mining, and coal-fired power plants, you have what we call the minerals energy complex, with white monopoly capital concentrating power. That means to solve the environmental problems, to deal with cities like Johannesburg, which really, if there were justice and ecological sanity, should never exist, to deal with the extraordinary exploitation of labor and the racism of migrant labor that this system ensured was, as the apartheid system, built right in. We really need an eco-socialist revolution, and not just a socialism, which has been discussed for many years by the Communist Party, by independent leftists, but something that we're beginning to explore the last 10 or 15 years, partly drawing on the Latin American inspiration of Buen Vivir and the traditions that are coming from the Latin American green left. And that is some vision in which we can have a just transition away from carbon-addicted, mining-centric, coal-fired, corporate-run, bank-financed capitalism that is already destroying our planet and also doesn't even deliver the goods. We have about 40% unemployment. We have the worst inequality in the world. PricewaterhouseCoopers, in their surveys of corporate misconduct and corruption, finds that our capitalist class is the single most economically corrupt in the world, and the World Economic Forum names our working class as the most angry. So it's for all these reasons that the objective conditions are superb for an eco-socialist transition. What we need is the subjective conditions. We need to put people's consciousness and their struggles all together. And so far we've just had a very fragmented kind of opposition with only a few very good ideologically advanced comrades like Desmond to articulate what this would mean at the grassroots.
So our challenge has always been to recognize that environmental justice is rooted in ordinary people and those affected the most, to speak for themselves, but also to rise up and to stand for themselves and fight for themselves. Environmental justice in South Durban has been a huge issue, as most people of color were deliberately placed by the apartheid system to live alongside dirty industries like the chemical and petrochemical industry. So we have the biggest concentration of people in any major city living alongside dirty industries, oil refineries, paper mills, chemical factories, pipelines, all running through their neighborhoods, all exploding and blowing up, and gassing out communities on a regular basis. As a result of that, people live in inhumane conditions. But more importantly, they're not even employed at those petrochemical refineries. So in 1994, when we started to rise up against the chemical industry, and when the trade unions started to demand a fair wage, the industry responded by cutting back on the labor. So since 1994, thousands of people According to a monitor, the Durban monitor that was done, 10,000 people every year shed their jobs. And since in 2009, 17,000 people shed their jobs in the chemical and petrochemical industry. But the profits didn't go down, the profits went up, right? But also what we also found is that by cutting labor, the explosions and fires and gas leaks were rising. So between two of the biggest petrochemical refineries, we have hundreds of explosions and fires since 1994. We've had thousands of incidents recorded of how these chemical companies operate. As a result of that, 2 health studies have shown. The first one showed that the asthma level, your breathing, was highest at a local school. 52% of the learners, the children, had asthma at the school. The second health study showed that the asthma rate was escalating, but also the cancer risk was 500 times. So 25 in 100 people was the cancer. And it's a conservative figure. I would think that people are dying. We have done a cancer registry, and we're finding that hundreds of people are coming forth because people are dying of cancer and leukemia. We're finding that the petrochemical industry is expanding. They're building more storage tanks, despite the notion that peak oil will reach its ceiling level in the next 20 or 30 years. And so, but they're not moving to alternatives that we have. We have bright sunshine in winter in Durban. So we should be moving to renewable energy now, but the big corporations are refusing. They are wanting more expansion of the energy, and not only coal. Have we seen that the 2 biggest coal energy companies, factories have been built, molds have been built in South Africa. Medupi and Kusile, the 3rd and 4th biggest coal-fired power station. They're also building more coal-fired power stations, and then they're going to look for coal in the sensitive areas where nature is thriving, where the big 5, where animals are protected. They're going there to look for them. Also, they're looking at through the Russian a company called Rostram. They're all over looking in Africa, but in South Africa they're doing the same thing, looking to move to nuclear energy. So we were fortunate enough last year, we stopped it. We won a case against the government and stopped that. But they can always come back because they never give up, you know that. So nuclear energy is something. Also, they're looking at bringing more technology of privatizing the water. So we've got water that's run by the state corporation. They're wanting to build desalinization plants that will kill the marine life. We want to stop that. So we're fighting on that front. The other thing that's been sold off is the entire Indian Ocean coastline to explore for oil and gas by the big oil corporations, BP, Shell, Sasol, the Italians are there, ExxonMobil. They all the same criminals that are all over the world. They're wanting to come here, and we're fighting there as well to push back on oil and gas exploration, not allow them on the ocean to destroy our beautiful beaches. So we are facing a lot of challenges of human rights and justice. Activists have been threatened and are killed off because we're standing up more and more. Never before in this country where activists have been killed. In the past, the apartheid government, we knew the enemy. And now with this, where they are targeting people that are opposing bad development, opposing development that's going to destroy our resources, our nature, they are targeting us. So people are being killed, but we continue to speak up, we continue to build a movement, because the movement is where we're going to win. And we'll be able to say no to them and ensure that nature